Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of the Tangerine Knits podcast. This is episode 9 and my name is Ichi. If you're new here, I live in Virginia and I love to knit. So this is where I chat about the projects that I've been working on. And it's actually been a while since my last episode and I've just been dying to film another episode and share all the things I've been working on because I've actually had a good amount of time to knit and I've been working on a lot of things that I hadn't even cast on yet in my last video, but it was just hard to find a time to film because it just takes a while to set up and it takes a while to edit. But this weekend I actually have some time, so I'm really happy to be sitting down. I'm really excited to share what I've been working on. I think life's been good. It's been busy with a lot of just activities going on since the weather's nicer. There's just a lot more to do. I've also been taking a pottery class for the past 10 weeks or so. So that's actually been taking up a lot of my creative time and energy. And so maybe I'll chat more about that at some point if anyone is interested. But this is a knitting podcast, so we will get started with all the knitting projects that I've been working on. And the first thing is my the top I'm currently wearing. I've been calling it my Lavender Haze top. I made it to wear to the Taylor Swift concert that I went to in May. I went to the Friday show in Philadelphia, so that was early May, so over a month ago, I think. And it was really fun. I went with my boyfriend and then a couple of our friends, and I just really got to be the over-the-top Swiftie that I've always wanted to be. And for the weekend, we stayed with one of the friends who we went with. His parents live in Cape May on the Jersey Shore, and so they graciously hosted us for the weekend, so we got to explore the area as well. So it was really lovely. And I made this shirt to wear to the concert. I was debating between a couple of patterns, and I'll go through them rapid fire, I think, in a bit after I talk about this one, because last time I mentioned it and some of you commented that you would be interested in the other patterns I considered, so I'll definitely chat about that. But about this pattern, the design is basically the Ghost Whisperer top by Park Williams. I really like that it's a single-stranded mohair knit that's basically sheer. So Taylor Swift has a song called Lavender Haze on her Midnights album, and so this is lavender, and it's so airy that it's basically like a haze. So I thought it was pretty apt. And I actually, for the pattern, I used the Drinks on the Patio crop pattern, which is just a regular tank top, and then I added sleeves. The reason is because I already had that pattern, first of all, and we always talk about yarn stash, but I have a pattern stash too of all these patterns that I've kind of collected but never knit. I actually started casting on the Drinks on the Patio crop, but with the yarn that I was using, I didn't like the fabric I was getting, and so I never actually knit it, but I'm glad to have put that pattern to use and actually used it. And then also, I think that pattern hacking is pretty fun. I don't really have any interest in being a knitwear designer or anything, but I feel like making modifications and just looking at how garments are constructed is really interesting and fun to do. So I figured that this is kind of a nice way to dip my toes into trying it out. I'm still basically following the pattern, but making a couple of modifications, adjusting for stitch counts and adding the sleeves and things and adapting it to a different yarn and gauge, etc. So I talked more about the construction of the Drinks on the Patio crop in my last video, but essentially it's bottom up. So you knit the bottom, and then you have the front pieces and the back pieces, and then you shape the shoulder and do the neckline, and then I added just sleeves. These are basically just straight sleeves, and I decreased at the bottom and added a rib. I would have liked to add a I-cord bind off edge, applied I-cord on the bottom as well, but I just kind of ran out of time. I was literally making this up until the night before we were supposed to leave for the concert, and so I was just trying to get it all done. I think the edge, the way I made it, it's not the neatest. It doesn't really lay flat because it's just pretty floppy of a fabric, obviously, per design. So I think an I-cord edge would have been nice as well. Kind of like what the Cumulus Tee by Petite Knit has, but maybe for another time. So this was a new to me construction. I've actually never knitted anything bottom up before, and so that was a nice experience. I think I still prefer top down, just because it's easier to try it on, and I don't know. I feel like when you knit such a long tube, it doesn't feel like you've progressed very much, but when you knit the top, you feel like you've kind of got a shirt that just needs to be lengthened versus just a tube that needs to become a shirt, you know? I know it doesn't actually make any difference, but psychologically, I think being top down is pretty fun. So yeah, one thing I wish I did do differently is that I cast it on pretty tightly. I mentioned this in my last episode as well. Basically, I did size up a needle size, which I typically do, or not typically, I often do. And I also use the German twisted cast on to hopefully make it a little bit stretchier. But I feel like the German twisted aspect of this cast on didn't really help, because in order for something to stretch nicely, it kind of needs to the yarn kind of needs to be able to slide. I feel like the stitches need to be able to slide if you want to be able to stretch it well, but I just feel like it's basically not stretchy at all. Yeah, I don't know if that is actually accurate or if that makes sense, but it's not stretchy, and I wish I made it less tight. I think one way I could have done that is casting on twice as many stitches and then do decreases, or just sized up to even a couple more sizes of needles. So that's something I could have done as well. And actually, when I was blocking this, I tried to stretch out the bind off, hoping that it would loosen up, but I actually ripped the bind off edge, which I think I'd done before for my Lume sweater, which is knit using one strand of sport weight merino. I was stretching the bind off edge in this way for that sweater, and it was just it just ripped. And so I ended up kind of trying to felt it together. And this is the cast on edge, but I also ripped it, and I didn't really know what to do. I kind of panicked because this is, again, the day before we were supposed to leave for the concert. And so I ended up just kind of trying to weave it, and I don't know if I tied a knot or anything. Basically, I was hoping that since mohair is so hard to frog, when you intentionally want to unravel it, it refuses to really unravel nicely. I was hoping that because of that, it's more or less resistant to unraveling, and I just hoped that it wouldn't unravel on me while I was wearing it, and luckily it didn't. It held up definitely for the event, so I was glad about that. And so now I can talk about the fabric a little bit. I knit this using one strand of Lang Yarns lace in the color lavender. I think it's 65% or 68% mohair or something like that. So a little bit less mohair content and more silk content by percentage compared to some other commonly used mohairs. And I had never used this yarn before, but I had heard a lot of good things. Someone actually commented on one of my earlier episodes, and I was talking about wanting to look for mohairs that are really soft, and they commented that they really liked Lang Yarns lace and other mohairs that have a higher silk content. And so that was kind of in the back of my mind to try it, because unfortunately I'm just a little sensitive to a lot of mohairs. I wish I wasn't, but when I even just feel the mohair ball at the store, it just feels really prickly, and I feel like that doesn't really bode well. So yeah, I got the Lang Yarns lace, and it didn't use a lot of yarn. I bought 2 balls, 25 grams each, and then I still have 15 grams of the second ball. So I used less than 1.5 balls of the yarn. And I was a little bit hesitant at first. I figured that, even though it's so airy and hazy, it's still mohair. So I didn't know if it would be too hot. And also I didn't know if it would be too itchy. That was my biggest concern, because although I was going to layer something underneath, my neck would still be exposed, and I wouldn't very well wear a t-shirt underneath this. I feel like that kind of defeats the purpose, or at least that's not how I would envision wearing this. And so I figured okay, I was mentally preparing that worst comes to worst, I'll just wear it for pictures and not wear it when I feel like I can't handle it anymore. But I was really happy and a little bit pleasantly surprised, basically, that I was perfectly happy and comfortable wearing this. It is not itchy at all. I can kind of sense that there's something there, but it's absolutely nothing about it feels prickly or uncomfortable. I wore it the whole time with no issues. I also didn't find it overly warm. I was sweating a little bit, but I don't think it was any more so than I would expect to wearing anything else on a day like that. So it was about 80 degrees during the day, and of course at night it cooled down, and I styled it with a sports bra underneath. I'll put a picture. It was a dusty purple sports bra that reads a little bit black in the pictures, but I've also tried it over black, and it was actually a little bit too dark and jarring for this color, so I ended up going with the purple sports bra, and I wore jean shorts and chacos for shoes, they're hiking sandals. It's not a fashionable look by any means, but I'm just a very practical girly, and I wanted my feet to be comfortable because I knew I'd be I just wanted to enjoy the concert versus having to worry about any foot discomfort, so I wore Chacos. But yeah, it was really comfortable. Like I said, I did sweat a bit, so I definitely had to like wash it as soon as I got home. But yeah, the yarn itself held up, and it made me really excited to knit with this yarn again, because I've mentioned before I love the look of mohair, but because I felt so many mohairs that I find itchy, I just didn't know if it was an accessible yarn to me. I tried the Knitting for Olive soft silk mohair before, and I found that to be pretty soft as well. And so yeah, I think this is at least like 2 mohair yarns that I really enjoy wearing. And so I think when the weather turns to fall and winter, I would like to knit another like mohair piece. Maybe not 100% mohair, but like mohair held with a fingering weight wool or something like that. All right, so before I move on to the next project, as promised, I'll chat a little bit about the other patterns that I considered making for the Taylor Swift concert. I'll do this rapid fire style, so if you're not that interested in Taylor Swift, hopefully you won't be too bored. But the first thing that I considered is the Viperidae sweater, which is a sport weight, like circular yoke sweater with snakes all around the yoke, which is so reputation, with the black and the red too, especially. And I think that I would have wanted to make it short sleeved and cropped, and then wear it with like a black skirt and then like high black boots or something like that. That would be really cool. I just didn't think I had enough time to make it because it's color work, fingering weight. And by the time I thought about wanting to make something for the concert, it was like just, I didn't want to be too stressed about having the time to finish a whole piece, you know? But I think it would have been a really cool option. The second idea I thought of was a Midnight Rain inspired shirt. This was actually my first like initial idea. Even before I knew I'd be coming to the Taylor Swift Eras Tour, I heard the song Midnight Rain on her Midnight album, and I was like, oh, like it would be so cool to knit like a loose drapey top in a sparkly like black or navy yarn. And so I had 2 ideas for this. The first one is to knit like a mesh, like a very mesh looking top. And so the yarn, the pattern I had in mind was the Bogey Birdie top. And I would have wanted to knit this in like a sparkly yarn. The finding the right yarn thing was the main reason I kind of shied away from this idea, by the way, is because I didn't really know where to get these yarns or what yarns to use. Recently I came across the West Yorkshire Spinners signature 4-ply in the sparkle color, which I think is like a black yarn with like, I don't know if it's tinsel or something, but it's just like little sparkly pieces in there that I think that could have worked. I looked briefly into adding beads to the yarn, and I kind of had some ideas for how people do it, but I figured it was a good amount of work. Like you might have to be, you know, pre-stranding something, like a bunch of yarn to knit, or just apply it as you go, which anyway, I just didn't really, it was just something that would have taken more time. And again, time was a constraint here. So I thought that would have been cool. And the other idea for the Midnight Rain concept was to knit basically this top, but with like a sparkly sequined yarn. And I actually saw somebody on Ravelry knit the Ghost Whisperer top with this black yarn with sequins on it, and I think that's kind of where the idea came from. But in the description, they were saying that the yarn isn't like super soft as other mohairs, and so I figured that's probably a bad sign if I'm sensitive to like a lot of mohairs. So I didn't do that, but I thought that would have been really cool, and that could have been a pretty quick knit as well. And then the third idea I had was more of like a folklore vibe. So specifically, I wanted to make the Antiquity blouse by Fabel Knitwear. It's like this gorgeous, like, I don't know if it's Victorian or something, but it's like a lace bodice with sheer mohair sleeves. It's, yeah, very folklore vibes. Fabel Knitwear actually has another pattern called the folklore top or something, a folklore blouse. And I'm not sure if it's named after Taylor Swift or anything, but that one also kind of gives me like Fearless Taylor's version vibes. I know this is all like up to one person's own interpretation, but that's kind of how I interpreted it. And yeah, I thought the Antiquity blouse to me was more like cottagecore folklore. And again, this was just going to be a little bit more involved of a knit, and I didn't think I'd have time to finish it. And also, I think that it's not as much of like what I envisioned that I would wear to a concert. It's very dressy, and I'd love to wear it to like date night or just like looking nice out and about in my regular life, but going to a concert, knowing that I wanted to wear chacos, I felt like, you know, it's like a little dressy. So yeah, I still would consider knitting that one though in the future, just because it's so beautiful. I think that's something I was considering, is I needed to find like a good match between the main yarn and the mohair yarn. And like, I know it's, if I wanted to make it white, like white is white, but there's still different shades, you know? I didn't want it to be too off. So I think I would have liked to, like, you know, go to a store and pick out the yarns and anyway, make sure that things match. So yeah, those are my 3 ideas for other patterns. And I saw so many cool outfits at the concert. Like, a lot of people put together like very themed outfits, dressed for one of the eras. At the show that I went to, there was a lot of like cowboy boots and sequins. I don't know if different like locations tend to have like a majority theme for what people decide to wear, but it was interesting because there was so much like sequins and shimmer at the concert that if you just looked into the stand, you can just see like the people glittering because of the sequins. So that was pretty cool. So yeah, if you went to the concert and you know, put together an outfit, I'd love to hear about what you decided to wear, what era you decided to dress as, and yeah, if you DIY'd anything. Oh, by the way, our friend Lisa made friendship bracelets for us, and she knew I was making this Lavender Haze top, so she made me a bracelet that says Lavender Haze, which I thought was very sweet, so I wore it for today just to be my whole Lavender Haze theme. And I think this top is probably still pretty wearable. I think that my favorite way to wear it is probably the way I wore it to the Eras tour, which is like with a sports bra, a cropped sports bra, and then denim shorts. With this one, like today I'm wearing it over a dress just to see what else I can wear it with. And I think it looks fine. It's just that, like, the proportions, I feel like you need the right dress. Like if this is really flared, I feel like the bottom should be pretty fitted. And so I just think, I don't know if this dress in particular has a silhouette that is something that I'm looking for. So yeah, but that's it. Thanks for being interested in my thought process for making something for the Eras tour. And if you're not interested, then thanks for being patient with this Swiftie segment. But now I will move on. The Eras era of my episode is over. So moving on to other things I've been working on. I've been working on so many other projects that I didn't even cast on yet in my last episode. All right, so first I've got the Camisole number 4 dress edition. It's been a good amount of knitting since I haven't even cast this on during my last episode, but I basically had the idea that maybe I'd like to wear this for my birthday, which is in July, and so if that was the case, then I needed to kind of get a move on and start knitting this. And so yeah, I started this shortly after I finished my last episode, I think. So I have been wanting to knit a camisole dress out of pure silk, the Knitting for All of Pure Silk, for a while now. I mentioned this in my 2023 knitting plans video as well, but basically last year I saw a photo on Ravelry of this person named Adela, I think is how you pronounce her name. I really apologize if I'm not saying that correctly, but she had a photo of a camisole number 4 dress in Knitting for All of Pure Silk, and it looked so beautiful. She actually just generally has really gorgeous projects and takes really beautiful artistic photos. Like everything on her Ravelry page is stunning. And so I was like, that's such a good idea. I would love to make one as well. And I briefly considered some other camisole like patterns to make into a dress. And my top contender was the camisole number 5 because I already had the pattern too. And I, in the end, decided that the camisole number 5, like because it's a dress and I knew it was going to be like a lot of knitting, the camisole number 5 had like a 28 stitch gauge at least. It may be even more, like smaller than that. Whereas this camisole number 4 had like a 24-ish stitch gauge, I think. Those may be off by a little bit, but basically the stitch gauge was a little bit bigger here. So I feel like that would come out to be a little bit less knitting, which that was the deciding factor, because I think neither dresses were necessarily like super bra friendly. So I feel like that would have been another deciding factor, but in this case, it didn't really matter. And I knitted a size extra small, and I also sized down needle sizes. The pattern actually called for 3.5 millimeter needles, and I used 2.75 millimeter needles because I have been knitting quite loosely recently, and also a lot of people talk about it being pretty transparent. And even after I knit this, I was a little bit worried that it would be too transparent because, you know, a dress like this, you can't really very well layer something underneath. I guess I do have like a half slip that I could wear underneath, but you could definitely see like the elasticated waist of the half slip, and it just wouldn't be very comfortable, so I didn't want it to be see-through. And I think my gauge was pretty on point to be 2.25 stitches per 10 centimeters, and it's actually a lot less see-through than the sample. So I've tried it on, I put the stitches on waist yarn, and it's pretty opaque that I feel comfortable wearing with like neutral colored undergarments. In terms of modifications, the most obvious one is that I knitted tie straps. So I knitted 2 separate I-cords in the front and the back so I can tie it into a bow. One of the reasons is I've heard a lot of people say that it stretches out a lot. Actually, in my 2023 plans video, when I mentioned this and I mentioned Adela's beautiful Camisole 4 dress, she commented and was super encouraging that like this is a really nice piece to have. And then she also said that the straps just stretched out a ton. And so I figured the easiest way to make it adjustable was to make the tie straps. The other modification I made that I kind of regret is the back. So the pattern, it started thundering. I'm not sure if you can pick up on that. It also got quite dark because it started thundering. So yeah, we're just going to ignore that. So, okay, anyway, the back. Let's see. So the top is made by like first making these triangles and then you join them. And so the back, according to the pattern, has the 2 triangles and then like a bunch of stitches that you cast on. So the shape of the back is like triangle, straight line, triangle. And I just thought that looked really funny for some reason. So I decided to just put the 2 triangles next to each other. I actually did an extra set of increases on each triangle so that the base of the triangle is wider than originally called for, and then I put them directly next to each other and didn't cast on any stitches in between. Looking back, I kind of regret it because the reason I thought this, cat ear thing looked weird, but that's only when you're not pulling the straps taut. Because when you pull it taut, there's like, it just becomes like a really nice like curve like that. I don't know if you can get the idea here. Well, you can't really do it on this because I didn't do that, but when the straps are pulled taut, it looks really nice. I think maybe the issue is that if the straps tend to stretch out, some of the photos I was looking at, this like it wasn't being pulled taut, so then it looked more like this versus like a nice curve. But yeah, I think I like the designer's design a little bit better than what I chose to do, but it's not bad enough that I want to frog it or anything, like not by a long shot. So I'm just going to keep it like that. And also because the stitches were a little bit off, I think I wound up casting maybe more stitches for the underarm so that I can maintain everything in pattern. Also, because it's a dress, I wanted to add shaping. And so I first added some decreases right after the fullest part of my bust, all the way down to the most narrow part of my waist, and then starting from there I increased up to the fullest point of my hips so that I can have a nice fit over my hip. And thunder. Okay, so in terms of the way I made the decreases, I actually did a couple of swatches on how to do that. And so the first one, I mimicked the cups. So let's see, the cups are centered on, the cup increases are centered on like a garter stitch. And so at first, I tried to do the same. Oh, am I showing the right thing? Hold on. Here we go. At first, I tried to do the same thing over here. But when I did it over here, I feel like, I don't know, it looks fine. It definitely looks fine, but I didn't think it looked that great. And so when I was thinking about doing the increases, I decided to try to center it upon, let's see, like the garter stitch and one knit stitch, not stitch. I decided to center upon like more stitches. So basically it'd be like the garter and the stockinette on either side, and then increase out of the stockinette sides. And I think that looks a little bit neater. Let's see how many sets of increases I did. Yeah, let's see. Can you see that? So I think I wound up, if that didn't turn out, I'll put a picture or something. But I ended up like increasing back up to the full bust circumference and then increasing another, I think 16 stitches on top of that so that it fits my hip. I basically like measured my like hip to waist ratio and then calculated how many more stitches I need to increase based on that. At first I tried to do it based on like actual measurements, like if my hip measurement is, I don't remember the number now, but is this number, like try to get to that circumference in stitches with 0 ease. But then that just seemed like way too much increasing, so I decided to do it by proportions. So have basically the same amount of negative ease around my hips as it does on my bust. And so I think I calculated like what percentage more is my hip circumference versus my bust circumference, and then I just increase that, multiply the stitch count of the bust by the same percentage, and then increase up to that stitch count, if that makes sense. I thought that was a little bit easier to do it by proportions. And I think it was like 16 more stitches. Oh, and then I rounded a little bit just to make sure that everything stays in pattern, etc. So this is almost done, I'd say. I haven't weaved in all the ends yet. And the reason I put it kind of on hold was because I was a little bit trying to decide on what length I wanted to make it. When I first started, I was kind of gung-ho on making it like midi length, like mid-calf length, because I really like that length generally speaking. And so I wanted to do that, but then I put it on hold after I knitted up 4 skeins. So this is pretty much exactly 4 skeins of the Knitting for All of Pure Silk. And I tried it on, I put it on, scrap yarn and tried it on. And then I was like, well, actually it could look nice as a mini length skirt as well. So I just kind of put it aside for a while I thought about it. And I think at this point, I'm pretty sure I just want to keep it a mini length, like not super, super short, but just, long enough for it to be comfortable, but like above the knee length. I feel like it would be a little bit more wearable potentially. At first I thought I wanted this to be like a more special occasion type of dress, but I don't know. Now, like looking at it, I feel like this is more of like a casual dress. Not super casual, but like not like I would wear it to be somebody's wedding guest either, So I don't know if that makes sense. I decided that it's possible that the midi length may not be maybe like a little too elegant and I'd feel too dressed up wearing it out, so that I would therefore never wear it. So I decided that I would just just make it like above the knee. I was basically a little bit indecisive about whether I should continue to make it midi length or not. One of the reasons I paused was because I wanted to check if I needed to add like a slit or anything or add any increases, because I noticed that my midi skirts and things like that are typically A-line. Like it doesn't look very A-line when I wear it, but then when you lay it flat, you can see that there are some increases on the bottom, and that's how it can still give you like a good range of mobility and you can take normal steps without like having a slit. So I think by this point this is like at my knee, and I think it's a little late to make a slit. I feel like if I wanted a slit, I would have liked to start like maybe mid-thigh or somewhere above the knee. But I will say when I tried it on, I think because it's knit, it's pretty decently stretchy such that you don't really need to put increases, or at least I didn't think I needed to put any more increases than I already did for the hips for it to still give me like good enough mobility, So anyway, let me know if you have any thoughts on like if you were to have a dress like this, whether you'd want it midi length, like mid-calf, or if you want to just keep it like a casual above the knee type of dress. Whoa, the wind is crazy. I'm sorry I'm getting so distracted. I'm sitting literally right next to the window, so I'm just watching the storm happening. But I will try to not get distracted. So anyway, what's next is, I should show that actually I blocked it. And a lot of people have been saying that blocking really transformed the fabric. And just to show you what that looks like, can you see there's like a line between where I blocked it and then the length that I've knit with the final skein that I didn't block. So I blocked it before I knitted the extra skein. So yes, this is, I think, yeah, almost done. Oh, I don't know if I said, what I've decided to do, I think, is to just frog it back maybe by 1 inch or so. So it's a nice like mini length. I think right now it's a little bit of an awkward in between length. So I'm going to make it a little bit shorter and just have it be a, you know, mini length skirt, a dress. And then after that, I'm going to have 2 balls of Knitting for Olive pure silk left in this color, plus like a little bit whatever I get out of like frog from here. So that's enough to make something else, maybe like another tank top. So I will be brainstorming what else I can make with it. And yeah, I will keep you posted on this guy. Okay, so it has started hailing. It is quite the storm out there. So I will again try to not be distracted. And let's talk about the next almost finished object. And it is my Levitate Wrap. So this is knit using Wool Addict's Air, which is 84% extra fine merino and 16% nylon. I am really, really into this. The yarn feels amazing. I got it from Wool and Company. It's the Illinois-based store. It's just lightning. Did you see that? Okay, this coupled with the fact that my battery is about to die means that I may pause and come back to it, to be honest. I'm literally sitting right next to the window and I'm hearing hail like bounce off the glass, so it's a little bit hard to not be distracted. So I basically cast this on because I wanted a bit of a palette cleanser. I had been knitting just project after project and only fingering weight yarn. So I knit my Cassia square neck, which is like a short sleeve tee, and then I knit the camisole, or the other loops twist loop top, which is a ribbed camisole, and then I knit the dress, the camisole number 4 dress. So it was all like a lot of tiny needles and slow progress, and this is 15 stitches per 10 centimeters, and I was like, this will help me feel accomplished. And yeah, I got the yarn specifically with the Levitate Wrap in mind, thinking that I'd probably cast it on later in the season, but I was like, whatever, I'm just gonna do it now. Plus, even though the weather is getting hot outside, the AC still is quite cold, so it's nice to have something cozy to wrap yourself in. I sized down in this. So the original pattern calls for having like 30 or 35 centimeters of positive ease, which is just a lot. I feel like 20 centimeters of positive ease is kind of what I'm comfortable with, like 15 to 20. So I sized down to an extra small. I also reached out to Vinicia from the Woolly Worker podcast. So shout out to Vinicia for taking the time to measure her gorgeous Levitate Wrap that she just finished recently and letting me know the positive ease that she had. She said she had like, I think 20-ish centimeters of ease, and I was like, okay, I'm glad I'm sizing down because hers looks great on her and it looks like she says that there's plenty of room as well. So I was like, okay, I'm glad I'm not doing something like super, super massive. Because I think, I don't know, the super massive, like super oversized look looks good on some people. But for me, I feel like I just get swallowed up. I'm not sure exactly why, but I've tried this on now and I'm glad with my sizing down decision. I could probably just put this on to show you what it looks like. Let's see. My progress currently is that I finished the body, as you can see, and I have also knitted the sleeves, like most of the sleeve. I haven't done the double folded hem on either of them yet. I basically wanted to block it so I can check it for length before I do the double folded sleeve because I knew that's not something I'd really particularly want to frog back. And it is so nice. I am so excited to finish it. I've only knitted one of the ties, not the other one. Well, I say only one, but it's all along the bottom edge and all around the neck, so it did take a while. I've actually never knitted this much double knitting before. I've only done like a couple of rows at a time for a tubular cast on or tubular bind off, or like to make a little scoring line to get fabric to fold. So this was something I had to get used to. Like when I first started, I was like, not gonna lie, very daunted. I was just feeling like I was knitting for ages, and then I would only get like this much fabric, and yeah, it definitely takes a while. That's not an exaggeration, but after I got into the groove of things, I expectation of the progress speed kind of equilibrated, and I was like, okay, this is just the way it is. And once I got into a groove, it wasn't so bad. But I'm very, very excited to wear this. I think it looks so nice, like with this band. And then the yarn feels like an absolute hug. There is no itch factor whatsoever. I think extra fine merino like really feels different for me. And yeah. So this is, again, I think it's like 90% done. So I will keep you posted when it's fully done. And even though, it's like warm outside, I probably would still be wearing it a good amount inside. Okay, the next thing is the result of chaotic cast on energy. I don't really know how I feel about this project yet, but basically one day I was just very much in a strawberry mood, and I was like, after work, just sitting down on the couch and being like, I want to knit some strawberry socks. So I casted on these like strawberry, the berry special socks by Stone Knits, I think. She does a lot of color work, like really cute socks. So it was very chaotic because when I casted this on, I didn't even have the yarn, like all the yarn colors that I needed for it. I had this so the yarn that I use, I should start with that, is the cream color is knitting for Focolana Arvetta in the color Marzipan. I used it for my my Ovis socks that I knit that are like my favorite socks ever. They're like the little sheep socks by the Petite Knitter. And then the red is Santa's Garden Sisu. I gotten it from Wool and Company. I'm not sure why I always get that mixed up. I got it from Wool and Company, and I knew that I wanted to knit some colorwork socks that require red contrast. I had a couple of patterns in mind, not specifically this one, but I was like, hey, I already have this red yarn, so that works. And then I didn't have this green color yet. I had originally thought that I could use my leftover Cascade Heritage that I used for my boyfriend's broken record socks. But when I held this all together, I thought that the green was a little too dark. Looking at it now, I think it may have been okay anyway, but I thought I wanted a lighter green, so I ordered this. So yeah, I had to order this one, but when I cast it on, I didn't have it yet. And so I just, got right around to the cuff. But as you can see, there's green leaves, like at the very beginning. It's a cuff down sock, so I basically didn't get very far at all before I had to stop. But then I started again. There's a couple of issues I have with this. Let's address the most obvious one. My tension was pretty whack. So actually in the very top, it looks okay. Like this row looks okay. On the bottom, it looks pretty atrocious. There's really bad puckering. Honestly, it's a little bit embarrassing, but it is what it is. I think maybe it's the way that I was catching floats. Like I was catching 2 strands of yarn and floats at the same time. And I think it just, maybe I wasn't as diligent in pulling the fabric and pulling the floats loose. Like clearly looking at the first row, I know that I'm capable of making not terrible looking color work, but I just didn't. And I guess I just kept thinking like, oh, it'll block out. But I blocked this already. It's not coming out. This is just the way that it looks. So that's a little bit unfortunate. The other main issue is the fit. So I decided to use the same thing I did for the Ova socks, which are, again, my favorite socks, fit so nicely. I basically sized up stitch gauge and sized up needle size because I was knitting so tight for the 3mm needle, for the 3-stranded color work. So I use usually I knit a 64 stitch sock, but I used 72 stitches. And then I also used, I think even a 2.75mm needle, but this time I just was like, I'm going to use 2.5mm needles. That should be okay. But it ended up being pretty massive, and I noticed that, so I decided to switch to the 2.5mm needles halfway down, but not frog back to the cuff because 3-stranded color work takes a while. But let me just fold this sock in half so you can see how much bigger the cuff is than the foot. This is a pretty significant amount, so it really feels quite big on my ankle. But I just didn't really want to redo it. I mean, at that point, I was kind of already not sure if I liked the look of these socks. And I just, honestly, the poor craftsmanship is probably just evident of me kind of giving up mentally on the sock, but then not wanting to physically give up. So I just trucked along without being very careful. So was it really even worth it? I don't know. The other kind of issue I have with this sock is that it's a little bit contradictory because it's such a cute, like, summery, light pattern, but it's 3-stranded color work, and it is thick. It is very, very thick. Like, compared to my Ova socks, which is 2-stranded color work for the majority of the foot, just the cuff had some three-stranded color work. Like, this feels substantially thicker than the other one. And so I'm just thinking, like, when would I wear it? I guess maybe the 3-strand, like, even if it feels thick, maybe it's not, like, as overwhelmingly warm compared to the 2-stranded sock, but I don't know, like, it's thick. So it's like, if I were to wear this in the summertime or the spring, which, like, that seemed reasonable to me at first. Like, even up until recently, I was still wearing my wool socks to go to sleep because, again, we keep the AC pretty low in the house because my boyfriend runs really warm, and so I just end up wearing socks to keep me pretty cozy and warm, like, at night. But these are just very thick. I'm sorry, I'm being a broken record over here, but it just, like, I feel like I'd most want to wear this in the summer, but it's too hot in the summer to wear 3-stranded socks. So that's, in summary, that's kind of my, like, issue with it. At this point, I'm not sure. I'm not dying to knit the second sock, but at the same time, like, what am I going to do with one sock? I don't really particularly want to frog it, but then again, given this bad puckering, maybe I should. So I think what I'm going to do is just, like, leave it for a while. I'm known to wear single socks randomly, so maybe I'll just wear it around and see how I feel, and at a later time decide if I wanted to knit the second sock or frog this one. So yeah, that's my strawberry sock saga. Okay, so those socks reminded me that I actually have a second finished object that I forgot to show, and it's another sock. These, I call them the sunshine socks. These are not the names of the actual sock, but these are like a 3x1 broken rib toe-up sock. I use the trusty toe-up sock pattern by Tennis Lavelli, I believe. I mentioned this before. I've knitted another pair of socks in this yarn in a different color for myself, but these are going to be for my boyfriend. I started them because I wanted, like, a travel project. I went to New York with my boyfriend. We went to visit one of my best friends for her birthday, and I just brought the yarn and the needles for this sock. I actually casted them on at a Liverpool bar in Manhattan because my boyfriend's a huge fan of Liverpool, and I feel like, you know, it's grown on me, you know, like, I care about the team now and I care about the players, and I would go to the games and have fun, but I didn't need to be, like, watching every minute of the game, you know, I didn't need to pay 100% attention, so I wanted something to do, so I casted this on there and made a lot of progress on the trip. I think I shared, like, one finished sock before, and then I didn't really touch it for a really long time, but then I think one day maybe my stuff was blocking or I didn't really know what I wanted to work on. I just started cranking out the other sock. I don't know which is which, by the way, which is the first and which is the second. But yeah, once you work on it, though, like, it just goes so quickly. Especially compared to those, like, strawberry socks, these are so much faster. It's just one strand and a pretty simple pattern. So now I've finished it. The only interesting thing to share is that previously I had mentioned that I basically always knit socks using magic loop, but I had gotten the 9-inch circular tiny needles, like, back in, like, February, I think, but I had a hard time actually knitting with it. I just kept cramping, my hands were cramping, my tension was weird, but I just kind of kept trying, like, not intensely, but every now and then I'll kind of try it, and it's gotten a lot better, so I'm glad y'all encouraged me. It definitely is a little bit faster than magic loop, and you don't have to think about, like, switching the needles, but I will say, like, so far I still can't knit for as long using them. So I still like magic loop, but it's really nice that that's, like, a viable option now when all my other sock needles are busy doing work, like, being on other projects, that I can still use the 9-inch circulars. So yeah, now that these are done, I might add this to my boyfriend's birthday present. His birthday is also in July, and at first I thought maybe I'll give these to him for Christmas, but since I've already finished it, like, might as well just give it to him for his birthday. I'm not sure that he'd wear it at all until the fall, but if it's if I give it to him for his birthday, then he can wear it in the fall, whereas Christmas, it's like the winter's already here, you know? So I think I'll give these to him for his birthday. I'm telling y'all because he's seen me knit this, and I don't think he watches these, so. Okay, I just went and grabbed the next thing. The next thing you have seen before. I continue to make some progress on it, and this is my Gioia cardigan. Gioia, Gioia. And this is a saddle shoulder lace cardigan, and I am now like almost done with the body, and I've knitted like 3/4 maybe of one sleeve. So this is knit using Juniper Moon Farms Harriet Fine, which is, let's see, it's 75% baby alpaca and 25% nylon. It's a fingering weight yarn, but I'm holding it double. And I think last time I'd finished the yoke maybe, or I was on the yoke or something, and now I've done most of the body. As you may have seen, I like to, put stitches on hold and then block everything to check for length before I finish it with ribbing or what have you. So I think I'm going to, this is what I think is going to be a good length minus the rib. And then I'm going to finish knitting the sleeve, and then I'm going to block it, check length, and then finish the ribbing. This yarn can't be spit spliced, I don't believe. And so to avoid weaving in lengths, I just kept the extra yarn for the bottom still attached. So this one has currently 4 balls of yarn attached to it. The yarn for the hem, and then also the yarn that I'm working with for the sleeve. So it's a little bit messy. I have the yarn in 2 different bags, and I just kind of carry everything all at once so it doesn't get tangled. So this yarn, I've had like an emotional roller coaster with this pattern and yarn, because at first I was so excited. When I first cast it on, I was like giddy because the design is so cool. I love the lace, and also the saddle shoulder compound raglan design just looks so nice. And now that I'm done with a lot of it that I can try it on, I really, really like the shaping of this cardigan. Like, the rate of the increases make it such that it's basically like a straight vertical line down here. And you also don't have to fiddle with like different panels. Like, everything is not in the round, but like contiguous. You don't have to knit panels and join them or pick up stitches or anything like that. So that's been really cool. But then the yarn itself, I started to be like a little bit concerned about. And it's obvious to me now, but for a while I was just so confused because like when I lift this, I feel like it's kind of heavy. And I was like, couldn't for the life of me figure out why, because I'm using fingering weight yarn, right? At first I was like, well, maybe alpaca or nylon is heavy. But then if you look at the yardage, like it's 420 meters per 100 grams, which is basically like a fingering weight wool as well. So I was like, why is it so heavy? And then it occurred to me like a couple of days ago that I'm holding it double. So basically it's not like it's fingering weight yarn, but I'm holding it double. So it's basically like DK or worsted weight, So that's why it feels heavier than like my fingering weight yarns. And also I think the pattern itself looks really airy because I think it's held with a lace weight mohair, silk mohair. And of course like mohair fills in the gaps, but it's like very, very light. So I can totally see how like a woolen mohair would be a really nice fabric for this. And I do think this is probably still heavier than that. Originally I thought this would be a nice spring piece, like my vest number 2 spring edition, which is knitting for olive, merino, and mohair. But this one I think is more of like a fall or winter type of sweater. Like I could see myself wearing this for the holidays, or I don't know. Like this is going to be very warm, So that isn't exactly what I set out doing, but it makes sense. So it is what it is. I also feel like it probably feels heavy because I'm basically almost done with it. Like I just need one more sleeve. The length is basically there. So if this is the weight of the whole sweater, like it's really not that heavy. The other thing I'm a little bit concerned about is shedding. So this yarn, like every time I knit with it, or if I try it on over a black t-shirt, I'm just covered in like little white fibers. So I'm really hoping that this blocks out, or just like stop shedding after a while. I would be a bit sad if it just continually sheds, because then it makes it difficult to layer with it, because whatever I wear underneath it would just have to stay hidden even after I no longer want to wear it, because it's going to be so covered with fuzz. Oh, the other thing I will share is that for the underarm pickup for like a raglan style thing, this is the least, let's see if I can show it. This is the least holy I've ever been able to make it. I used Suzanne O'Brien's method, which I'll link below, which I'd used before, but I think this must be the first time I'm doing it properly. This is the way it looks before like any sewing. Like normally I have to do some duplicative stitching to close up holes, but there are just seriously no holes. I really think this is the first time I've done that method correctly. So I think that, yeah, if you're interested, this really works. I've tried a lot of methods. And yeah, this one, I've never done it as well as this time before, so that's pretty cool. All right, what else is there to share? Oh yeah, after I noticed like my terrible tension for the strawberry socks, I was like, have I not been noticing that I've been knitting other things weird? So I feel like this sweater has a little bit of rowing out, which is obviously not ideal, but I'm hoping that it would block out enough that it wouldn't bother me so much. It's not that atrocious, but it kind of reminded me that it behooves me to just like look at my knitting a little bit more and like knit more carefully. Sometimes I just, when I'm really not thinking and I just knit really, really fast, like I think that may adversely affect my craftsmanship. So I guess a reminder to slow down a little bit. Next, I have a swatch, or it's actually a couple of swatches of the same yarn. So I have the Knitting for Olive Pure Silk in the color Cardamom, and Cardamom, I don't know why I said it like that. And so I wanted to make the Barbroe's tank. So I swatched for it, but I sized down needle size, partly because I just like now assume that I need to size down, and partly because I like my other needles were, I think, being used for something else, maybe the Cami number 4 dress. And so I used like 2.5 millimeter needles to swatch for it. And I think the pattern looks all right, but it's a little bit tight because like from afar, I feel like the lace doesn't come across as much. And like basically I think it needs to be lacier. The yarn overs need to be a little bit bigger. So I should probably re-swatch with a bigger size. But yeah, I really like this pattern. I'm not crazy about the color. I think I've been struggling figuring out what to do with this yarn. I have 5 balls of this pure silk. Originally, I bought it to make the Cami number 6 and Schwartz number 1 set, held with another strand of merino. I don't really like that color either, and I don't like the colors together. It looked really great on the sample pictures, but I think on my skin tone, it just something is off. I think it's a little too cool toned. And so similarly, I'm not sure if the cardamom by itself looks very good on me. And so that's why I kind of have a hard time figuring out what to do with it. And 5 balls is like really enough to make a t-shirt or even like a long sleeve cumulus tee. And so because of that, I'm like, should I just make a cumulus tee to use up the whole like quantity of yarn that I have versus having awkward leftover amounts? Like I feel like I could make 2 tank tops or a t-shirt. I do like the idea of having a Barbroe's tee in this color, but I also kind of want to just use up the whole yarn. So that's to be determined whether this actually become a Barbroe tank or something else. The other yarn that I swatched is Hiku Kobasi, which is like a cotton, bamboo, silk, and nylon blend. And it's really nice and stretchy. People say it's like very similar to merino without having any merino. And I agree. Like, look how stretchy and elastic it is. I'm not sure if you can tell. But I just did a little swatch because I kind of wanted to make like a vest, like a button-down V-neck vest type of thing. But I haven't really found a pattern that I like. So that's kind of why I haven't cast it on. But I swatched just to see what it would look like. And this confirms that I really like this yarn, but I'm not really sure what I do with it. I guess I could make a Barbroe top with this. That could be nice, like a white Barbroe tank that I can layer it under maybe more things because white is more versatile. Maybe I'll swatch for it. I feel like a lot of people don't really bother swatching, but for me, like I just feel so unsafe when I don't swatch because I feel like there's a good chance that I'll have to end up frogging, or if I don't like something, like basically I've had enough swatches that don't work out to convince me to always make a swatch first because it's better to unravel a swatch than the whole piece. All right, so that's it for stuff I'm working on. That I've been actively working on anyway. And now let's talk acquisitions. I feel like I have some exciting stuff to show. So the first one is, I can't believe I got this. It's the Sandnesgar and Miltodama, like soft knits for ladies pattern book. And I feel like maybe the hype for this has waned. This was like all the rage for a while. And funnily enough, at that time I was like, meh, I don't really need anything from that pattern book. And then when I felt like I wanted to knit stuff from it, there was just no time. Like there was, what am I saying? It was not available anywhere. It was sold out everywhere. And so I just spent a while trying to hunt this down. And at one point I saw that the Wool and Company, said it right this time, had like 4 of these in stock. And I was like, oh, this is my time. I need to get it. So I ordered it. And the patterns that I most want to make with it are the Amy slipover. This one. Oh, let me make sure I'm not showing anything that's like, I don't know, proprietary. Give me a second. Well, I'll just show it in order. I really want to make this Guernsey Genza. I think a lot of people have made it before. It's similar to the Ingrid sweater, which I've made, and I really like it. So I feel like I would like something like this as well in a cream or beige color. And secondly, I really want to make the Amy slipover. Should I even find it? I'm having a hard time flipping to it. Oh, here it is. The Amy slipover. This is the thing I really, really, really want to make. I kind of want to make it out of the Juniper Moon Farm Patagonia Merino, which is a sport weight merino that I use for a Lume sweater, colorwork sweater. And I really like it. It's super soft. And I think for a turtleneck where there's nothing that can layer underneath, I really want it to be extremely soft. And I think that yarn passes the test. So I want to make that. There's socks in here that are pretty cute, and the Lou Genza is pretty cute. There's some like basic sweaters. Oh, and then the Gia zipper sweater with like a trapezoidal placket. I really want to make that. That's actually pretty high on my list as well. Although I have read that the pattern, I've read other people saying that the pattern itself is not super like clear. So let's see. Yeah, this is the one. I wanted this in like a orangey red color. So that's the stuff that I want to make out of this pattern book. And basically I got some more yarns because I felt kind of bad like ordering just one thing, because they offer free shipping on all orders, and I feel like I should support them and get more things. So the first thing that I got was that Sandnes Garn Sisu, the red sock yarn, if I can find it. Oh, here it is. Sandnes Garn Sisu. It's pretty standard superwash wool and nylon sock yarn for a contrast color. Okay, my camera died and I couldn't find my spare battery, so I took a small break and now I'm back and the storm has stopped. So we'll finish the video in a peaceful environment. So yeah, I was talking about acquisitions from Wool and Company, and I had shared the Sandnes Garn Sisu that I got, I think. It's just a standard, 80% superwash, 20% nylon. I just used it to make the strawberry socks. So TBD if I'll keep using it for that or not. I also have already mentioned I got the other yarn I used for that strawberry sock pattern. This is the Cascade Heritage in the color Fern. And yeah, it's also, let's see. It's also superwash wool and nylon. Oh yeah, 75% superwash merino and 25% nylon. And I also got, like I mentioned, the Wool Addicts Air that I use for my Levitate Wrap. I don't really want to lift all the yarns attached, so this is the one that I had used. And at the same time, I also got it in another color. I basically couldn't decide if I wanted it in that pink color or in this beige color, so I wound up getting both. And yeah, this was on discount, by the way, so I think for the whole Levitate Wrap quantity of yarn, it was like $65 US or something, which for like super fine merino that actually feels really, really nice, I feel like it's a pretty good deal. Because I also, I think, got like a 10% discount because my whole order was above like the threshold to get a 10% discount, because I got this one as well. And I really like this color too. I was originally thinking I'd knit like a crew neck sweatshirt type of sweater with it, but now I'm thinking maybe another cardigan could be cool. I'll have to see if this is like long enough. This is enough like quantity to make a full cardigan. I'll see how much, if any, of the yarn I have left for the pink Levitate Wrap. But if I just made like a simple cardigan, even if it was the Levitate Wrap just the same as a Levitate Wrap, but instead of continuing to cross over, just knit the V-neck and go straight down, and then do the same do the same double knitting finishing, and I guess with buttons. Yeah, I can figure something out, but this yarn is so nice, and it knits really quickly and doesn't feel heavy either. So yeah, it's 125 meters per 50 grams. So I'm excited to have this as well in this color. And this is where I feel like finding a beige color is kind of like tricky for me. I feel like sometimes like a beigey brown looks not very flattering on me, but I feel like this is a really nice one, and I don't really know why. So it was kind of a risk to get it, I guess, but I really like it. And then next, what I'm really excited about is this. I got the tin Lena from ShanaKay, and this color is called Sunny Lime, I believe. It is 53% cotton, 33% viscose, and 14% linen. I've been eyeing this yarn for a while. I heard Amy from Knee Knits say that it's kind of feels like the pure silk from Knitting for Olive. So, and I kind of get that. Like, it's a similar type of hand feel. I've heard great things about it, and I really wanted to knit something in this chartreuse color that seems to be all the rage in the knitting world and just in the fashion world. I think I've seen this color a lot. And I recently figured out that like, I think a lot of like neon greens don't really flatter my skin tone, but like a yellowy green, like a chartreuse, actually looks pretty nice. I have like a sweater that's a chartreusey yellow. It's, I think, a lot more yellow than this actually, and I really like wearing that. So I really want to make like a high neck tank top with this. I'm really eyeing the Camisole number 9 pattern that My Favorite Things in Knitwear has been kind of teasing on her Instagram. I think she said that it was going to be released in July, so I'm anxiously awaiting. I would love to have this in like a high neck tank top. What else did I get? I think that's it from Wool & Company. The last acquisition I have, I just got it this past weekend from my local yarn store. So I walked in because I had just been like really wanting to go to a yarn store. There was nothing I really needed. I actually was trying not to buy any more yarn. Isn't everyone saying the same thing? But I was out running errands and I was going to like basically pass by it. And I was like, well, I have to stop in. And it was actually so nice. I wore my Cassia square neck, which is my fingering weight, like wool and cashmere nylon blend t-shirt, square neck t-shirt. And the ladies at the store, they were like, oh, did you knit your sweater? And I was like, oh, of course, this is the kind of place where people will notice if you're wearing something hand knitted. And they really liked the pattern. They were asking about it. They like loved the puff sleeves and everything. So it was just really, really nice. And I didn't go in like wanting to buy anything, story of my life, but I figured I would go check out the sales section. There was something that I was thinking to buy if it was in the sales section. And it was, so I was like, okay, this is a sign I should buy it. And it's this. I got 6 balls of this. It's the Tropical Lane IDL, which is a fingering weight merino. It's, it says it's, extra fine merino. Probably explains why it's so soft. So this has been in their clearance section for a really long time. I had gotten the gray yarn I used to make my, twist loop top, and that is like next to skin soft. And so I had seen this green color there and I really liked it. They had a white too. The white was sold out by the time I went there, but this, they had like 6 balls left, so I got all 6, thinking that I could make like a cardigan held with mohair, or I could make like a cardigan without mohair. I almost said mohair. That's weird. I wanted to make a cardigan with this, or even like a sweater. I don't know. Anything with this I think would be really nice. A cumulus tee without mohair. So yeah, I basically really like this forest green color. So I got it, and it definitely should be enough for me to make something, cardigan or t-shirt. So yeah, that is it, I think. Let me see if I forgot anything. Yeah, that's it. So I actually didn't buy any yarn at all in February and March and April, except for, no, I think April is when I started buying these yarn. No, wait, yeah, in April I had bought the yarn for this top, and then I think I placed some of the orders for the ShanaKay book but I didn't, like, it hadn't arrived yet when I filmed my last video. But yeah, so like in May, I guess I got like a number of yarns. I had wanted to like more focus on knitting through my stash because I still have a lot of yarns, but some of these things I just felt like really excited by, and I'm really glad I'm already like knitting through some of it, like the Levitate Wrap, the socks I started knitting, and yeah, I'm just so excited for this one. So yeah, I will keep you posted on everything going on there. I think this was probably a very long episode, so if you made it this far, thank you for staying with me. So yeah, I hope you're doing well, and I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, I would really appreciate if you consider liking this video or subscribing to this channel, or both. So with that, I will leave you to it. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and